Hello. This was a question I've done with a couple students as we built up to the exam, and I thought it's only fair that I go through it and share it with everyone. In addition, it actually highlights a lot of really nice skills. So we're going to write a function called buildString, and what buildString does is it takes a list of strings, and strings can be of any length. It returns a new string consisting of the first two letters of each string. If the string length is less than 2, take the whole string. Now, I'm going to actually do this incorrectly first, and then we'll do some testing, and then I'll fix that error. So as after you're watching me do this, you recognize he's missed something. That's really good. Okay, let's dive in. Alright, so essentially what I need to do is I need to loop through each element of the list, pull out each string, and pull the first two letters out, and use that process of string construction. So remember, string construction is the process of making a string and then continually adding new strings to that. So we're going to make an empty string called newString, and then essentially all I'm going to do is write a standard loop that's going to go through each element in the list. Now, some of you have figured out a shortcut or a shorthand loop for this. I tend to use this loop format at this stage because when we progress onto Java, it makes the connection a little easier. But if you use the shorthand notation, that's fine. So, and all I have to do is I say newString equals newString plus, and now I want to pull the first two letters off of each element. Now you can do this in one line, and I'll show you that in a second, but let's break it down first. What I'm going to do, I'll make a temporary variable, and the temporary variable is going to equal list.I. And then what I do is now I'm going to say temp, and I'm going to take 0:2. And this is going to take, so essentially this pulls the string, pulls out string from list, and this pulls first two letters. And then once I'm done the loop, I simply return newString. And now let's give this a little test. Maybe I'll zoom out a little bit here so we can see a little bit more. Let's take this first test case here. So I'm just going to highlight this. And I'll just come down here. And let's just print it directly to the screen so we can see what happens. And if I right click, and sure enough it works. ONFICA. ONFICA. And that's wonderful. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to illustrate the fact that if I have a list of strings, I can pull out each element and manipulate it just like I would a standard string. Now I said that you could actually do this in one line, and let me show you how to do that. What you can actually do is you can simply do list at I, and list at I, this is going to pull out the string at that index, and then we're going to pull out those two letters. So if I do this, no problem. Now, like I said before I started this, I'm going to actually design this such that there's an error. And this is actually the most common mistake I would see if a student was working through this in an assessment. And it has to do with index out of bounds issues. So if I copy this, and I'm going to copy this second test case. Now I'm going to actually say this has to do with index out of bounds issues, but we won't get that with Python because Python tries to be helpful. What we actually will get is just a generalized error in Python. There we go. I think that's set up right. Oh, we'll do one more bracket. There we go. And let's just, while we're at it, let's fix this up here. And this is something I noticed when I started teaching Python, was that Python's trying to help us to make it easier, and sometimes what in other languages would be a runtime error actually turns out to be a logic error. And I'm pretty sure that's what we're going to get here. So if I comment this out and give this a run, let's see if it works. We get MOETISAJEKN. So I stand corrected. Actually, it would work perfectly fine. But if you happen to do it this way, let's imagine that you decided to pull out each character individually. This is going to give you an error. And there it is. And what you're getting now is an index out of bounds error. And what we forgot to account for is the situation right there, where I have a string which is either length 1 or length 0. You see, what Python does is Python's smart enough to say, listen, if you want to pull out two letters, if there's less than two letters, just pull out whatever's there. And that's great. But other languages, that would actually be an issue. Where you do run into a problem with Python is if you pull out those characters individually, that's when Python doesn't know what to do, and it kind of scratches its head and crashes on you. Run this. There we go, and it crashes. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to fix this, imagining that we're going to go on and program in a language like Java, just to make sure we understand. And what we need to do now is we just simply need to account for cases that the length of the string is those two special cases, which is 0 and the length of the string is 1. So I'm going to say if len bracket list at I, if it's greater than or equal to 2, that's perfectly fine, no problem. We'll tap that over. So basically, if we have a length of 2 or more, do what we need to do. elif length of list at I, and I have to fix the notation up above, is if it's equivalent to 1, let's fix this really quickly. It should be there. It's better. Okay, so if you're length of 1, that means I'm just going to take that single character. And so just like that. Now, what some people would do is some people would do this, and I see this a lot in younger programmers. And again, this is going to have no impact. That's code that basically is going to go there if the length is 0 and do nothing. But really, this has no value in terms of coding. It's just an extra line of code, which actually can slow things down. So if I run this now, it works perfectly fine. And you'll notice it works if, even if I remove and I put an empty string in there, it still works perfectly fine. But again, because this is a pointless line, I can actually remove this. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how to manage a list of strings. So I hope this helped, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask me, and have a wonderful day.